Friends, good morning. Good morning. I hope you're off to a great Saturday. Here in Salt Lake City, it's beautiful sunny weather. I have hikers and bikers outside my window, and I can just feel this great energy going on today. It's going to be a great day. I'm so happy that you joined me again. And I woke up this morning with my husband at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, we're going to kill this day. We're going to do some really great hard work. And we kind of started tackling, well, we've been in the midst of a big landscaping project here at my home. And before the big guns and the big equipment come in, I thought, I want to get my hands dirty and really do some work. And, as much as I don't like weeding and I don't like pulling out trees and getting my body all scratched up, there was a great sense of satisfaction knowing I am so grateful that I have the energy to do it. I'm so grateful that my body can bend and stretch and do all these crazy things when you're doing landscaping, and then feel energized to go about my day and not feel like I have to take the whole day off. It's been such a great week. I had so many breakthroughs in nutrition and fitness and everything. And it felt so good. And, when I bring you things and when I teach things on these episodes, I definitely do them myself because I want to be that guinea pig and I want to help you understand that it really does work. And this was one of the things that I learned today, that what I'm going to share with you today has made a huge difference in the way that I feel, in my energy levels, and my sleeping patterns. And so, I'm walking the walk. I'm walking the talk, and it feels great. So I've already been up for 5 hours today, and now I'm so excited to be able to talk to you and then be on with my day doing all kinds of other things. And I hope you have great plans for this Saturday as well. I want to take a minute to really thank those of you who have reached out to me this week. I've had so many people email and connect on Facebook and ask questions and, be so excited about the things that we're teaching here and that they're learning through the videos. So I'm so grateful to you for sharing. It means a lot. I do want to build a greater online community of people who want to feel better and do better and enjoy their health and celebrate their bodies and everything that we love here at Simply Living Smart. So I did have some feedback, and there are some episodes that are coming up that were requested by viewers like you. And so there are 3 off the top of my mind that I can remember. One was, how do I get radiant skin from the inside out? Another one was high fiber ketosis. What does that mean and why is it important to me? And another one was plant-based protein and why that's important and why, especially for women, we need to be talking about more protein as we age. And I'm hitting that 50 mark with a lot of you, and protein really matters as we age. So I wanted to cover those things as well. So those are coming in future episodes. I did want to remind you that next week is the 4th of July. I don't expect any of you to be live with me, but I'm super excited because the entire month of July, I'm going to be talking and focusing on organization, home organization, car organization, garage organization, paper organization. In fact, next Saturday, as we launch this organization episode or month of organization, we're going to be talking about something called the Weekend Warrior Basket, where we kind of tackle all of the tasks that you have going on all day long or all week long. Paperwork coming in, things that need to be taken care of, and that's the way we're going to kick it off, okay? Before we demolish anything in the house and before we declutter, we're going to talk about paper and our files. So I'm super excited about that, and I hope that you'll join me or watch the recorded version. Now, just as a reminder, for those of you who are new to Simply Living Smart, I have over 400 videos on my YouTube channel at Simply Living Smart. You're welcome to access. We've also done about 6 or 7 of these Facebook Live videos that you're welcome to access on Simply Living Smart. Just look under Live or look under the Video tab, and you can go and see the recorded versions. Most of those recorded versions have free PDF downloads, whether that's recipes or kits or ideas or training. You're welcome to have that at no charge, and I would hope that you would share those with the ones you love and you feel that would profit from this information. So let's dive into our episode today, and this is all about food combining and why it matters, and it does. Food combining is one of those things that's getting a lot of attention recently, and the thing that's important to understand is that we digest foods at different times or at different paces. So there are some foods that digest quickly, and there are some foods that take a long time for digestion. So we're going to talk about all of those and why it's important not only to your gut health, but also for maximum nutrient absorption and better energy. It really we can't just, stuff whatever we want in our face and feel it's okay. It doesn't matter how healthy it is. If it's combined in a way that is not appealing to our bodies, then we cannot, it's just not going to be effective for us. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that I invested in a course last year, about a 10-month course on functional nutrition by Andrea Nakayama, who is phenomenal. She's a functional nutritionist, and she coaches people all around the world. She's incredible. And the information that she puts out is wonderful, and I would look her up if you're into functional nutrition. Again, her name is Andrea Nakayama. And I took this course. It was very intense. And you learn about every system of the body. Well, this is just one of those little tiny systems. It's the digestive system. And so this is what got me excited to share some information with you. And this is so high level what I'm going to be sharing with you. There's so much more. But I just wanted to take 25 minutes and just go over this so that you have some kind of baseline, because you're going to feel better just taking these steps today. Now, this is a disclaimer. I am not a nutritionist. I am not a physician. What I'm sharing with you is science and research, and then you are free to make your own decisions and see how it makes you feel and if you want to follow this kind of plan. But if you're looking for less bloating, more energy, reducing your weight, getting optimal nutrition, it's important to understand how food combination works. Today, I'm going to let you download this amazing, I love this ebook. It's called Food Combining and Why It Matters to You. And I've got the link right there in the show notes. You can download it in my online store at no charge. You can share it. And it's about 20 pages of really great information. And some of it I'm not going to cover here today. So let's get started. I want you to imagine your digestive system as a train. Okay, it has there's different cars on the train. So first we have the engine. And the engine is things like fruits that digest really, really quickly, okay? Those are high energy. Then we have the middle car, and that could be starchy foods. They digest a little bit more slowly. So while fruits might take 40 to 60 minutes to digest, starches can take 2 to 3 hours to digest. And then we have the caboose. These are our fats and proteins. They take 4 to 6 hours to digest. So imagine that you've got this train kind of chugging along. You would never put the caboose at the beginning. That's like eating a hamburger and then eating watermelon. How many of you have ever been to a barbecue and had a hamburger and then eaten watermelon and you feel so sick inside you just want to throw up? Well, that's because the protein is blocking, and all that fat is blocking the fruit from coming through. So it just sits in your gut and it rots and you feel really uncomfortable, okay? So those are really basic things to remember. Fruits first, because they digest more quickly. Starches next, because they digest a little bit more slowly. Fats and proteins go at the end. They're the caboose, and they take more time to digest and leave the stomach. Okay, so that's the basis that we're going to be talking about today. So it's important to also know that when you digest food, your body, your stomach releases specific enzymes, okay, to be able to break down that food. So when you're eating proteins, your body is releasing acidic enzymes and to break down that protein. When you're eating starches, your body is releasing alkaline enzymes to break down the starches. Imagine if alkaline and acid were, combined together. So you've got starches and proteins you're eating, and your body is releasing acidic and alkaline enzymes. They cancel each other out, and this means a standstill in your digestion. So what happens? Neither of them get digested. They just sit in there and they kind of rot, kind of like a compost pile. It's gross to think about, but that's really what happens. So you want to have either one or the other environment, either alkaline or acidic, and that will provide optimal digestion, okay? So we're going to break down foods by type because I think that's important. And then we'll understand better what kind of environment they're in, how quickly they digest, and how we're going to feel when we eat them, okay? So let's start with fruits. Fruits are at the top of the list, and fruits are always best eaten alone. If you're going to eat your fruit, it's always better to have fruit in the morning on an empty stomach because it goes through really quickly, and then you can get on with your next meal in a couple hours. If you eat fruit during the day, that's okay too. Just leave about a half an hour after you've eaten the fruit to eat anything else. You're going to just be a happy camper, okay? Melons especially need to be eaten all by themselves. They have such a high water content and they really go right through. There's a saying that says, eat it alone or leave it alone. So remember that with melons, eat it alone or leave it alone. And we talked about eating watermelon with meat, right? Or any fruit with meat. That's never going to be a good idea. Your stomach is going to hurt so bad. So try it. I mean, again, you might have, a stomach of steel and you can eat whatever combination you want. But in order to give your body the maximum nutrient and feel light and feel great, it's better to separate those two. Now, some of you may be concerned about eating fruit alone because you have blood sugar spikes, which is a valid argument. If that happens, it's totally fine to eat fats with fruit. For example, an apple with nut butter or a banana with avocado, okay? Or berries with avocado. I mean, just think of fats or nuts. You can have some nuts or some seeds with fruit, and that's just fine, and that'll keep your blood sugars pretty stable. Bananas and acai berries are really the exception to the rule when they are to be eaten alone. The reason why is we don't get any juice out of a banana, right? That's one of the fruits that can't be juiced. It just doesn't have a very high water content. So bananas are pretty fibrous and they digest a little bit slower. And acai berries have really high omega-3 fats. And so they digest a little bit more slowly too. So you can eat acai berry with a starch such as oatmeal or rice or bread, and you can be okay with that. But the other fruits really should not be eaten with a starch, okay? So a lot of people tout about, fruit with oatmeal. If you don't have a problem with it, that's totally fine. It's just not going to digest as well when you eat fruit with your oatmeal. It's better to have nuts with your oatmeal, so fats with starches. We're going to talk about that, so hang on for a minute. So we talked about fruits. Basically, the thing that you want to remember is eat fruits alone and eat them 30 minutes before you eat anything else. The only exception are bananas and acai berries, okay? Now we're moving to starches and proteins. That's the middle car in your train. And those take about 2 to 6 hours to digest, okay? So starches 2 to 3, proteins 4 to 6 hours. So starches are things just like pasta, grains, bread, quinoa, beans, corn, legumes, squash. Those are 2 to 3 hours, okay? And then we're talking about protein, which is meats, nuts, eggs, fish, seeds, and dairy. Now, rule number 1, starches and proteins should never be combined, and neither should 2 or more sources of different proteins like meat and cheese or milk and eggs. Now, I'm just telling you, this is science. This is not me talking. And if you can tolerate it, that's great. But for optimal nutrition, for optimal digestion, it's not suggested that starch and proteins go together. So think of, a ham sandwich. That's probably not a great idea because you have the ham, you have the starch, you have the cheese, so you have protein, starch. It's not a good combination. You probably don't feel great after that, right? Rule number 2 is proteins should not be eaten with fats. It's too taxing on your digestive system. Now, we also talked about 2 proteins shouldn't be eaten together. So steak and shrimp, sorry people, not a great combination. Or meat and cheese, not a great combination. Or nuts and meat, not a great combination. So again, just be mindful of those rules. Number 1, starches and proteins should never be eaten together. And number 2, proteins shouldn't be eaten with fats. In the standard American diet, these are combinations that we see all the time. Listen up. Chicken and rice, meat and potatoes, hamburgers and fries, spaghetti and meatballs, omelets made with eggs, cream, and cheese. How many of those sound familiar to you? That's just the standard American diet. That's how we've been raised, right? We're going to talk about ways to change that up a little bit because those are all starches and proteins. How do you feel after you've eaten a bean and cheese burrito? What about lasagna with meat and cheese, or bread pudding, or French toast or steak and potatoes, do you feel like you could go run a marathon? You have so much energy, you want to just go, go, go? No, we feel like we want to crash on the couch for 2 hours and just let our stomach rumble away, right? We feel lethargic. I mean, think of Thanksgiving dinner, right? Meat and potatoes. The reason why we feel like this is the combination is wrong and it's not serving us. So we don't feel great. We feel sluggish and we feel tired. What it does is it actually, again, we have alkaline and we have acidic, and they're clashing and they're canceling each other out, and we're not getting the nutrient absorption that we need. And it can cause all kinds of things like moodiness and bloating and indigestion. So that's going to wreak havoc on our systems, okay? Here's the proper combination. Starches with fats. So we talk about maybe oatmeal with coconut oil, oatmeal with walnuts, chia seed with like chia seed pudding with seeds, right? Or even banana. That's okay with banana. Remember, that was the exception. Toast with avocado and beans with sliced olives or pasta with olive oil. Those are all just better combinations. Can you see how starches and fats just makes more sense? And I promise you, because I've experimented very strictly this week, it took me 2 to 3 days to really nail it. And I felt like $1,000,000 just by watching that I don't combine my starches with my proteins, that I do starch with fat or protein without fat. Okay, it made a huge difference. Now, if starches shouldn't be eaten with proteins, then what might be a great substitute? Eat your starches with vegetables. The things I love about vegetables, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, is vegetables are a go-to anytime. They go with anything. Vegetables go with starches. Vegetables go with protein. Vegetables go with fat. They can sometimes even go with fruit. So vegetables you never have to worry about. You can eat them anytime with anything. And that's the good news. So I want you to think of a way that you can substitute. Let's think about spaghetti and meatballs, okay? So we know that the pasta and the meat is not a good idea because it's starch and a protein. But what if you switched out the meat for mushrooms? I think that mushrooms are the closest thing to the texture and the flavor of meat than anything else on the planet. So I love it. So listen to this combination on your pasta instead of meatballs. And this is something I do all the time. I take my coconut oil and I warm it up in my pan. Then I throw in some button mushrooms, just chop them up coarsely. I put in some garlic, onions, kale, sun-dried tomatoes, and then I sprinkle and then I do that over angel hair pasta, or you could do a gluten-free pasta. And then I sprinkle that with some hemp seed, and then I do a little dabble of olive oil. It is so delicious, and it tastes so hearty and so good, but I feel great afterwards. I don't feel like I had spaghetti and meatballs, but I still feel like I had that really hearty, yummy, rich, meaty flavor in the mushrooms. So that's maybe something that you can consider. How can we change up chicken and rice? Have you ever done a crispy rice bowl where, again, coconut oil in the bottom of your pan, let it get really hot, and then you take any rice that you've cooked and you pat it down so it's really, really nice and firm, and you let it get really crispy on the bottom. It takes maybe 3 or 4 minutes. It's delicious. And then on that, you can put avocado, which is your fat, and then I add all kinds of things like chopped jicama, cilantro, basil, lemon dressing. It is amazing. It is so, so, so good. Then we have the ham and cheese scenario, right? What do we do about the ham and the cheese on the bread? Because everybody eats sandwiches. Well, instead of just scrapping the bread and saying I'm going to have the ham and cheese, because that's never a good combination either, substitute toasted bread with avocado, sprinkle it with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of lemon pepper. It's absolutely divine, and it's not a problem. Your body will love it. It'll feel so much better. Now, here's the big one. What about the steak and potatoes that everyone is so used to? Why the potato, the starch and the potato, or the starch and the protein? Never a good idea. So when you're eating your broccoli or your steak, have something on the side instead of a potato, like broccoli or Brussels sprouts. Those are great high fiber foods. And you're not going to miss the potato. I promise you're not going to miss the potato. You're just going to feel so much better. So now we're coming down to the vegetables. I am such a fan. Well, you know, I love vegetables, and there's so much you can do with vegetables. And again, I mentioned that vegetables can be eaten with anything, starches, proteins, fats, or even sometimes fruits. And they can be divided into two parts. And this is the most important thing to remember about vegetables. You have the highest fiber vegetables, which are the non-starchy vegetables. So think of the vegetables that grow above ground. These are cucumbers, broccoli, cauliflower. I said mostly above ground. Carrots, I know they're below ground. Asparagus, tomatoes, spinach, kale, peppers, Brussels sprouts, radishes, and jicama. Those are so high in fiber. And so when you're eating that with protein, it really helps to just ramp up the digestion. Your body isn't sluggish, and you can process that a lot easier because remember, we're creating an environment where that can be digested. The ones that you want to focus on mostly are the high fiber vegetables. So again, think mostly the ones that grow above ground, or the high fiber and non-starchy vegetables. So the starchy vegetables are things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn. They have a lot more sugar, and they're just not really great for weight loss, and they're not great for digestion as much. So you want to maybe avoid those or have fewer portions of those. One of my favorite ways to eat high fiber vegetables or the non-starchy vegetables, and I've mentioned this before, is to make a really good hummus. You can either make the hummus just with garbanzo beans and olive oil and some garlic and lemon pepper, or you can add in roasted peppers and make a red pepper hummus, which is delicious. And then I just add a bunch of non-starchy vegetables, cucumbers, I do green beans, I do celery, I do, and then even some fats, some walnuts and some olives. And I love that. It's so satisfying. Radishes are some of my favorite. And of course, jicama, because it's sweet and crunchy. And that is lunch. I mean, that tastes so good and so satisfying. And I know that my body is happy, and it's clean food. So that's a great way to eat the vegetables. Again, you know, we talked in an earlier episode about having those things prepped ahead of time so that you have your hummus in your fridge, you have chopped up vegetables, everything is ready so that you can combine them really easily, really quickly, and just you feel like such an energy waterlogged machine. It's so amazing. And you know how our bodies are so starved for water. Well, one of the things I've learned as well is that it's not only important to drink water, because water only goes so far and water can go right through you. It's important to eat vegetables that have gel water in them. And that gel water comes from things like cucumbers and celery. Because what happens is when you take them in, it kind of acts like chia seed. It kind of, lets itself out or expands in your body. And it's kind of like a slow release water or hydration for your body. And it's a really great thing to incorporate into your diet. So cucumbers and celery are super great, high fiber, high water gel foods. Okay, salad, I think sometimes we think salad is just lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, and a dressing. It certainly does not have to be that. In fact, in Europe, a salad is dandelion greens and herbs and arugula and all these bitters. And their salads are, and then, olive oil and olives and all these high fiber, nutrient dense foods. So the darker the color, the better for you. I would say ditch iceberg lettuce all day long. I don't think I've bought iceberg lettuce for 30 years. Iceberg lettuce has zero nutritional value. It's basically water and a little bit of fiber. So when you're buying your greens, go for the darkest, the collard greens, the kale, just that really dark vegetables. Beet greens are one of the best things that you can eat. I happen to have a neighbor who I love who allows me to go into his garden and pick all these yummy vegetables. And I will come home with the most beautiful greens. Beet greens are some of my favorite. And I just take a huge bunch of them and I'll freeze them in freezer bags. And that's what I use to make my green drink every day. But that nutrition, those antioxidants, it has lots of magnesium. Those are things that we really need. And if you're struggling with sleep, magnesium is something you really want to start incorporating more frequently. So go for the darkest vegetables. That's not only the darkest leafy greens, that's the most vibrant oranges, the most vibrant reds, the beets, the peppers. Go as vibrant as you can because the lighter you go, except I have to say jicama is a pretty darn good white vegetable, the better off you'll be. All right. So we've covered vegetables. I've kind of gone off on my vegetable tirade because I love them so much. but I'm going to rein it in. We're going to talk about fats. Now, fats, again, they take 4 to 5 hours to digest. So they're the longest. They're the caboose, remember, and they take a long time to get through our system. So fats are things like coconut oil, avocado, chia, flax, olives, butter. Fats are so nutrient dense and they can slow down our digestion, but it can also help you feel fuller longer. I want you to think about chia pudding, right? When you're eating chia pudding, you can eat maybe a half a cup and feel so full, right? And because it expands and you have those healthy fats, and that's important. I've always been of the mindset, because I do intermittent fasting. I guess it's just the way I do it. I don't eat till 1 o'clock in the afternoon most days. And so to break my fast, it's usually been 18 hours. I don't ever eat fruit because it just spikes up my blood sugar and it makes me feel so hungry and so ravenous. What I do is I break my fast with fats. And this is just the most basic thing. I do a half of an avocado, just kind of mashed up, a little drizzle of olive oil, some cashews or some walnuts, and sometimes even some olives. And then I sprinkle it with lemon pepper. That is how I break my fast. It is so high fat, but it's such healthy and good fats that it feels completely satiating. That within 30 or 40 minutes, I am still so full from that I can think clearly to make my green smoothie, right, for lunch or whatever I'm doing. So I don't know if you feel like this, but when you're really, really hungry, you typically don't make the best decisions. You kind of throw everything in, and usually it's carbs, it's the sweets, it's the craving stuff, it's the bread. If we can get away from that and tell our bodies, you know what, you're going to be so much happier if I just load you up with healthy fats, and in 1 hour, let's come back to that decision when you're a little bit more hungry and make a better choice. It kind of takes the edge off. It's also much better for your digestion to start with fats, because then it's getting that nutrient-dense food. It's kind of priming the digestive system. And then after an hour, you can have your green smoothie or your big salad, and it's much more primed to digest that food. And so that's kind of the routine I love and that I choose, and it works for me. So another thing, guacamole. Of course, guacamole is a great fat food, and you can put so many great things in guacamole. And you do feel full when you eat not only the avocado, but a little drizzle of oil, whether that's MCT oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. Just a tiny bit will do you, and it's so good for you. And I know, we're so worried about fats. Good fats are so good for you. You will not gain weight. You will not get fat. You will not break out. Healthy fats is what our brains need. Our brain is made up of fat, people, and we need to remember that. So when we fuel our brain with the proper nutrition, it works better. We're much more active and alive. And I am completely convinced of that. So now that you know how long it takes those food to digest, we can lessen the taxation on our body. So it's important to wait till the protein has exited the digestive system to make sure. So again, just the stomach, not the entire digestive system, of course, that could take hours, but just exited the system. So if you think, okay, you know what, I had my smoothie or my salad, that might take 2 hours to digest and go through, then it's time for dinner. I can have protein, but maybe don't eat your, I always stop eating at 5 o'clock at night. I think my window is 1 to 5 and it works well for me. Some people might have a bigger window, but just be conscious, especially of the protein. If you've had a protein meal, leave at least 4 to 5 hours, or make that the end meal of your day, so that you don't have stomach discomfort when you go to bed. I think so many people suffer from poor sleep because they're eating too late and they have poor indigestion, and that's such a problem. We're always told never to eat past 7. I think, some people, they need, like me, I need to be done by 5, and I just do really well. And I kind of like going to bed feeling a little bit hungry. I sleep really great that way. So think about this again. Maybe breakfast, you can have your fruits or that engine on your choo-choo train. Then for lunch, you can have your starches with veggies or with fats. That's the middle car on your train. And then the last one would be your dinner, your proteins, either with veggies, but no fats. Okay, with veggies or no fats, and that's the caboose. Now, let's say that, you just had a cheat day and you just didn't have any self-control, which we all do. I go through that a lot as well. And you're to that point where you're just miserable. What do you do? What's your rescue? What's your rope that you go for? Well, there are different things that you can do. you can have on hand a few little rescuers, I call them. One is a digestive enzyme, if you've cheated, okay? And digestive enzyme is something you can just take in a pill, and it's easy to find at any pharmacy. It's just called a digestive enzyme, and you can take 2 or 3 of those when you feel discomfort, and it'll help kind of settle things out and start breaking down that food. Another one that I really love is raw apple cider vinegar. It only takes a tablespoon in 4 ounces of water. If you ever experienced, like I said again, the barbecue with the watermelon and the burger, and you feel so bloated and so uncomfortable, you feel like you're gonna burst, well, the apple cider vinegar actually helps to reduce that bloat. Now, here's another tip. Apple cider vinegar, and it has to be the pure, it has to be like Bragg's apple cider vinegar, the one with the mother in it. You know what I'm talking about if you know apple cider vinegar. If you take it before eating something really high in sugar, let's say ice cream or cookies or bread or anything that's going to hike up your blood sugar, it really helps to actually stabilize that blood sugar so you don't have those blood sugar spikes. So it's almost the same thing as eating fats before you eat your sugar. It does that. Same thing with cinnamon. If you eat cinnamon before or with something that has a really huge insulin spike, that will bring down that spike to be a little bit more level. So those are kind of some good ideas. Another rescue tool is a pinch of baking soda with water. This is not my favorite, doesn't taste great, so I go for the apple cider vinegar, but it works as well. It'll make that environment that your body needs to digest, and you'll feel some relief. Another thing that you can really help yourself with, and this is something that I would recommend doing several times a week, if not every day, is to drink bone broth. Now, for those of you who are familiar with bone broth, it's something you can easily do at home. It's readily available in the stores. Just buy organic bone broth if you don't want to take the time to make it yourself. I mentioned in an earlier class when we were doing the pressure cooker class about bone broth, and we know that it has the collagen and all the great things for your body to just digest and heal the gut. It's so good for you. And what you can do, and I've done this several times, is I go to the butcher, I buy some ox bones. Like, it doesn't matter what bones you buy. I like the ones that like marrow bones. Those are kind of my favorite. And then I'll just take a few of those, put them in my pressure cooker. I'll add garlic, a ton of onions, carrots, celery. I think that's it. And and a little bit of Himalayan salt, well, quite a bit of Himalayan salt, sea salt, and I will just let it simmer away for like 12 hours. And just let it sit there, and it will be, really, really fatty on the top. And but that's okay. That's so healing for your gut. It really is just so good. And then all I do is I bottle it. I can freeze it, and then I take out 1 bottle at a time. I swig maybe a half of a cup or 1 cup a few times a week. I love it. It feels nourishing. It feels yummy. It's kind of like homemade, chicken noodle soup when you're sick. And if anybody you know has digestive issues and they want to do something every day to kind of help relieve their gut and make it feel better and to heal, bone broth is a huge lifesaver. So that's something that you do not in case of an emergency always. It's just a consistent thing that you might want to consider. But be careful when you buy them, to make sure that you can read the ingredients and they're actually real ingredients. There are a lot of good ones on the market. I happen to have the time and love to do it myself. And I feel great when I drink bone broth. Okay, so here is the summary of what we talked about today in our episode. Number 1, eat fruits only on an empty stomach, especially melons. Remember, eat it alone or leave it alone. Number 2, don't combine proteins and starches or proteins and fats. Number 3, don't combine multiple proteins in one meal. Number 4, try to consume dairy. We didn't really talk about dairy much, but try to consume dairy on an empty stomach. So if you're going to have your ice cream, have it on an empty stomach. I am not going to preach to you about, cereal and milk. I'm not a dairy person, but there are so many more alternatives to, there's great nut milks and things like that. And that's a whole other episode. But really, dairy, I think, should be eliminated from everybody's diet, but that's just my feeling. If you love it and you do well with it, great, you should have it every day. But I would love to see more people switching to a vegan option. Almond, coconut, oat milk is now really, really popular. So I think you just feel better. I think your body, I have always believed that our bodies aren't designed to digest milk from a cow. So that's just one of my things that I've always kind of felt. And personally, I feel better when I don't drink milk. So you can make your own decision. Of course, Hippocrates said, let medicine be thy food and let food be thy medicine. I totally believe that. I don't think that it's the food that actually heals us. I think it's the food that helps our bodies to heal themselves. I really believe that, because if we can arm our bodies with good, nutritious food at the right time, in the right quantity, our bodies are going to be amazing machines that will give us the energy we need to do our work, that will help us feel brilliant in our minds, and will give us clarity throughout our lives. And I really, really believe that. I don't care how old you are or how young you are. If you can really hone in on how to take care of your digestion, because we know that the gut is the second brain, right? We've heard that so many times. Then we're going to see a huge shift, not only in our moods and in the way we feel, but in our outlook on life in general. So I think that's really important. If we want food to nourish us and heal us, we have to pay attention. That's really kind of the whole idea behind this episode. Remember to download this ebook I have for you, Food Combinations and Why It Matters to You. The link is right here in the show notes. I hope you'll take advantage of that. And again, thanks for being with me today. I'm super, super excited about next week. We're going to be kicking off our organization month for July. And so get ready for that. I'm encouraging you because a lot of people are still reaching out with questions about organization, and I'm going to be covering those in July. If you have an organization emergency, if you have something you just can't figure out, then shoot me a quick email. Let me know, and I'd love to address it on one of these live episodes. I know that we can learn a lot from one another. I don't have all the answers. I never claim to have, but I'm here to help you with what I do know and hope it'll make a difference for you. Okay, people, off to our energetic Saturday. I hope you get a lot done, and know that I'm cheering you on, and I hope that you're learning a lot, and I hope that you can share a lot. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.